Williamsburg Bray School educated free and enslaved black children from 1760 to 1774. Funded and run by the England-based Bray Associates, the school's goal was to teach black children the Anglican faith, which was Virginia's established church. The Associates instructed the school's teacher, Ann Wager, to teach the students to read, the tenets of the Christian faith, and teach girls knitting and sewing. The Bray Associates believed that by adopting the Christian faith and learning these practical skills, these children would be more obedient and useful slaves. But the school's wealthy founders could not control what these children did with their knowledge once they had it. We're continuing to research and better understand the lives of these children and how attending the Bray School impacted them. I'm Stephen Seals, and today we're going to explore the school and two places where some of the Bray School scholars lived and worked. We're going to focus on their material world. What kinds of things did they interact with every day? And what can those things tell us about their lives? We're starting here at the restored original Bray School itself. Good day to you both.
Good day.
Hannah, can you tell us about the students that attended the Bray School?
Of the 14 years that the Bray School operated here in Williamsburg, we have listed the students from 3 of those years. And those lists tell us their names, who they're enslaved by. The majority of the students were enslaved. It tells us that the students are both boys and girls and range in ages from 3 to 10. We know that there are a few free students who are attending the Bray School as well, being sent by their own families.
And their teacher's name was Ann Wager,
Yes.
right? What subjects would she have been teaching them?
Well, Ann Wager is primarily instructed to teach the students to understand the tenets of the Anglican Christian faith. And she's instructed to teach them how to read, to be able to read the Bible and other books of faith. She's instructed to teach them to recognize their letters, to spell, and to know their stops and starts, their grammar. But she's also supposed to be teaching them skills that make them more useful to their enslavers. For example, the girls are instructed knitting, embroidery, and needlepoint skills. And while Ann Wager is instructed to teach them to read, these girls mostly are practicing those knitting skills and embroidery skills by using samplers, stitching letters and numbers, plants, trees, animals, Bible verses, practicing those handwork skills.
Right. Well, and Ashley, what does the archaeology tell us about the materials that the students were using?
The archaeology has been really important in connecting sort of the material culture with the curriculum and letting us know what's going on at the site day to day. We've been working really hard at trying to find objects that connect with the historic records. So one thing that we're really interested in is, what kind of objects can we find that are related to the curriculum? Reading obviously doesn't preserve well in the ground. We don't find a lot of books archaeologically in this region of the world, but we do find things like sewing needles and straight pins, things that would be used to do samplers or other sewing and knitting tasks. We find thimbles, things like that. We also find things like dishes, which the kids are probably using, and clay marbles.
Yes, let's talk about the marbles. What can the marbles tell us, and what are we still trying to find out about them?
Yeah, so the marbles are made of clay. They're handmade. We have more clay marbles at this site than any other site in Colonial Williamsburg, which is awesome. They're almost certainly related to the students, but we're not sure how yet. We're not sure where they're coming from or how they're getting to the site, if they're toys for the children, or if they're part of the curriculum. Is Ann Wager using them to teach counting or things like that? Is it all of the above? So those are all things that we're trying to explore a little bit more in looking at these.
Now that we've seen some of the objects the students interacted with at the school, let's visit the home of one of Williamsburg's wealthiest enslavers, Peyton Randolph, to learn about where some Bray students lived. Linwood and Neil, thank you for being here with us. Linwood, can you tell us a bit about the 3 children of the Randolph property who attended the Bray School?
Certainly I can. We have Roger, Aggy, and Sam. Roger and Aggy were 7 years of age. The school extended itself from the ages from 3 to 10 years of age. And what's remarkable about the school, it gave those individuals an opportunity to come back and share with their community. Many of these enslaved folks possibly could not read or write. And so the Bray School provided that opportunity. It connects the community. It connects this community of those folks who are on this property.
And talking a bit about what this particular space was used for. Once they left the space, they would be in the house doing work. And what sort of work would they have done in the house?
Laundry is necessary. We know that cleaning of windows and taking out of chamber pots, whatever was required would be accomplished and done. And because these are children, they're learning those skills from those who are adults. And so with their role in life, with their importance in understanding community, and that Bray School was an extension of that learning, of sharing and connecting. That's the importance of the Bray School, and that's the importance of talking about how we gather information and how we talk about community, even in the enslaved community.
Yes. And you talked a bit about the work that they were doing, laundry being one of those. So let's make our way over to the laundry and we can talk some more. Neil, why was laundry so important?
Laundry is one of those things that is ever happening in any large 18th century home. And for large Virginia households, typically they had a space dedicated just to do laundry. But the laundry in sort of the terms that we think of it today, with sort of balling everything up and sticking it into a washing machine, is quite a bit different. It's very much separated out. So things like bed and table linens, so sheets and pillowcases and bolster cases, tablecloths, napkins, and also the linens that are worn closest to the body, like a man's shirt, a woman's shift, stockings. Those are the things that are making their way down to this area, the laundry, to actually be laundered. So in this space, they'd get boiled, soaped, scrubbed, ironed. They could be blued, starched. And some of these things we're going to find some of the children from that are attending the Bray School actually helping. Some of these may be just common everyday chores, bringing in wood to make sure the copper pots here stay warm and boiling. Some of it may be stirring the pots. Some of it may be bringing out some of these linens, laying them out and preparing them for the more delicate tasks of ironing. So a little bit of everything could be done, but certainly one of those things that the adults, the enslaved adults, would be teaching those children as they're working in this area.
Well, and some of the things that you talked about would be part of a bedchamber, would they not? So let's make our way there next. Neil, talk a bit about the textiles in this room and how would they have differed from the textiles that you would have found in the other sleeping space?
Sure. As you said, Stephen, we are in the bedchamber for the Randolphs, standing before these two monumental beds. Very, very, very large, very, very well put together with all of the bed curtains that are hanging from them. The bedstead, which is the wooden section, is really just a display piece for the textiles that are going to be put on them. So we have two beds in here, one that is fully festooned and trimmed in printed cottons that would have been imported to the colony here in Virginia, a very, very, very high-end bedstead. And it's slightly juxtaposed to the one behind us here, and through the inventory of Peyton Randolph, we know that this bed was hung with Virginia cloth. Interestingly, a cloth that was probably domestically made here, maybe just outside of town on one of Randolph's plantations by enslaved men, women, and children, but good enough to be in the Speaker of the House of Burgesses and hanging on his bed. So this is very different compared to where we were when we started earlier downstairs in the servants' hall. Much more practical textiles found down there. Through various records, we know things like Osnaburg were very common for sheets and bedding, which is a plain brown linen, very coarse. And then things like the imported blankets coming from Yorkshire, England, to then keep individuals warm in the winter months. So very different between these two beds, these two bed chambers here in the Randolph House.
And what sort of work with the enslaved children of the house, what work would they have been doing within this space, Linwood?
When Aggy, for example, went to that Bray School, she learned needlework skills. Right. She could use those skills certainly to number the number of sheets that the Randolphs had. Right. So the idea that they're coming in, they're now able to make a mark upon those sheets. You might have 10 or 12 of them, and each one has been marked for identification. But it's not just the fancy garments that we are surrounded by. Chamber pots have to be taken out. The coal has to be removed from the fireplace. The fact that they're running errands back and forth all day. Wash, bowl, and bottle has to be taken care of. Wigs maintained. So the everyday activity takes place in this particular space reminds us that they are indeed enslaved, but they also have the responsibility of making sure that they're doing the job necessary for the Randolphs. This tells us they have money and they're doing exceedingly well.
When we think about the textiles on their beds compared to the Randolphs, it really highlights how enslaved children interacted with a whole range of goods on a daily basis. Another place where we really see this juxtaposition is the Raleigh Tavern, a place of work for the children enslaved by the tavern's owner, but a place of rest and leisure for its patron. Michael and Tara, thank you for joining us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Great to be here.
There were 4 children from the Raleigh Tavern who attended the Bray School. Michael, what can you tell us about them?
Yes, so we have 4 children's names from the surviving student lists that were laid out by the Williamsburg Bray School. Phoebe, Jerry, Joseph, and Dick. Their ages do end up ranging between as young as 3 with Phoebe, Dick being 4, Jerry being closer to 10 years old.
And today we're in the billiard room. And can you tell us a bit about what this room is used for?
Sure. So as a tavern, there are many rooms in this building that would have been used for dining and entertainment and lodging. This room is particularly purpose-built for billiard playing, which was a popular pastime in colonial Virginia as well as in England. And we do have an antique billiard table in this room, an English one from about 1738. We do know that there were English-made billiard tables in colonial Virginia, in Williamsburg actually, in the mid-18th century. So gentlemen who were here at the tavern could play billiards.
And can you tell me what sort of work would Phoebe, Jerry, Joseph, and Dick had been doing within the tavern and within this room?
Yeah, there's a lot of upkeep, and especially with a billiards room and table. The idea is that the tavern keeper has a very expensive piece of furniture, and the tavern itself is very well known in the city of Williamsburg. So Phoebe, Jerry, Joseph, and Dick are doing all sorts of work to keep this room afloat in a sense, right? The gentlemen of the city are going to be using this space, using candles that are getting burned. So we know there's quite a few sconces that were in the inventory of Anthony Hay. So Phoebe or Dick could have been cleaning up the candles and moving them in and out of the spaces if needed. Since Phoebe and Dick are 3 and 4 years old, the likelihood of them doing something as laborious as bringing the firewood in and out of the space to keep the fire going, or even cleaning out the used chamber pots. And then for Joseph and Jerry, their role in this space likely would have leaned more towards being waiting boys, right? So anytime the gentleman of the room needed food or drink to be brought from the bar room or brought from the kitchen outside, it was their task to bring it in, wait on them for whatever request they had in relation to food, drink, or the game itself.
Wow, it's fascinating and gives you a lot to think about, doesn't it? The places we've seen today really show the Bray School students' unique view of Williamsburg. They moved between their own sparse quarters and some of the most affluent spaces in the city. They had few personal possessions of their own, yet they still had to care for the personal belongings of others. And their education at the Bray School was centered around equipping them to better serve their enslavers. How did that education change their perspectives about their community? We're continuing to explore this very question here at Colonial Williamsburg. Keep checking in to follow along as we keep learning more.